Welcome, Formula One fans. This is the Formula One News Hour, and I'm your host, Jonathan Steele. This week we have the Brazilian Grand Prix, and this week's history is going to be Jacky Ickx. Not a real household name to a lot of people, but Jacky Ickx was a very successful driver, more so in other types of racing than Formula One, although of course he did have a pretty successful Formula One career as well. But let's start by thanking our sponsors. They are Phenology, Moms for Liberty, L American, Off the Press, Inform America, and I believe that's it. So for this week. Let's start with news of the week. There really wasn't that much news. Maybe we'll get more as the week goes on. I'm recording this in midweek, so maybe we'll get some more news as it goes on. Of course, the feud with Max Verstappen, Red Bull / Sky Sports still appears to be going on here. Obviously, all the grown men will show up in about a week or two, and that will be history behind us. But until those grown men show up, then we're going to have this little spit for spat. And you got my feelings on that last week. I just think it's unfortunate to say the best, or to say the least, rather. So anyway, let's get started with Jacky Ickx. The good news is Jacky Ickx is still with us. He was born on January the 1st, 1945. So that makes him exactly 5 years older than me. And he had a start in racing which was kind of strange. As a kid, he was not really that interested in motor racing at all until his father, who is a journalist, or a sports writer, I should say, for a Belgian magazine, took him to a race one day, and he started to develop an interest, but even then not a great interest. And of course I should mention Jacky Ickx is Belgian, one of the few Belgian Grand Prix racing drivers, really, especially from that era. So good to see that. But anyway, after his father took him to a few races and got him kind of interested in it, his father bought him a 50cc motorcycle, and that's where he started to develop interest in racing. He actually raced as a youngster. He raced in the 50cc local races in Belgium, and then got to be more experienced and got to be better and better, and actually got to be quite a successful motorcycle racer, winning the Belgian title in the 50cc class. So he is one of those racing drivers, like a lot of others from the 50s and 60s and early 70s, that really could drive any type of car, and did drive any type of car. He didn't get his start into Formula One until, I should say not Formula One, but Formula 2 actually, in 1966. And he was given a drive in a Formula 2 in 1966, and did quite well in that drive. So that would lead to a longer career in both Formula 2 and Formula 1. Now, something very interesting about Jacky Ickx in that time frame was that he really never did settle with one car manufacturer. His early ride came from Tyrrell. If you remember, Tyrrell is really the car that Jackie Stewart drove for and won his championships in. But Jacky Ickx seemed to move around, and maybe it was because he could never find a car that suited his style of driving. He was exceptionally good in the wet. He could drive in the rain better than just about all of the drivers of that time, with the exception of Jackie Stewart and Jim Clark, but even those two drivers came second to him a couple of times in the wet. So for whatever reason, he was able to drive in the wet very, very well. Now, he drove for Tyrrell, he drove for Ferrari, he drove for Maserati, he drove for Lotus for a couple of years, and that was during Lotus's downtime after the T72 car, which was designed in the 1970s, 72 up to 72. From about 73 on through 76, 76, Lotus had some really rough years, and they could never get a car that could compete. After that, of course, they went on and again started their winning ways, and that's kind of the way it is in Formula One. The teams find the right mix for one particular year or two particular years, and then it just goes away. If you look at the domination that Mercedes had up until really last year, when that domination was threatened by Red Bull, and of course this year Mercedes has been totally dominated by Red Bull. So, but don't expect that to last. But anyway, back to Jacky Ickx. One of the interesting things about Jacky Ickx was that he was a lot more successful in Le Mans. In fact, Jacky Ickx held the winningest record for Le Mans until 2005. He won 6 Le Mans 24-hour races, and of course, you know, the Le Mans is a team event. You have 1, 2, sometimes 3 drivers, but he was one of those drivers that drove the Ford cars that were designed by Carroll Shelby. If you've ever seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari, which by the way I would recommend you to do, it's a really good movie, then he was one of those drivers that drove that Ford GT40 car and actually took it on to win. Not the year that second year that the English driver Ken Miles won, and then had it taken away from him because of some really bad stuff brought about by the guys, the management team at Ford, who wanted their cars all to come in 1, 2, 3, and Ken Miles had been leading that race by nearly a full lap, which is at that track that's a little close to 8 miles. So, but the guy that was heading up Ford Racing at that time wanted them all to come across the finish line together to make it look good, and as it turns out, Ken Miles lost the first place, and so did Ford, because of that a silly ruling about how he had not driven as far as all the rest of the cars. But anyway, back to Jacky Ickx. Keep getting sidetracked here. Jacky Ickx was very, very good at sports car and saloon car racing, and in rally cars as well. Jacky Ickx won the London to Dakar rally, which was an extremely grueling race. So he was very, very good at cars that were different than Formula One cars. Don't get me wrong, he was very, very good at Formula One as well. Jacky Ickx was runner-up to the Formula One championships twice. The first time he was runner-up to Jackie Stewart, and the second time he was runner-up to Jochen Rindt. If you remember, I brought that up when we talked about Jochen Rindt being the only Formula One driver to win the title posthumously. And in fact, in 2011, in an interview that Jackie did with a Belgian newspaper, he said that he was happy that he did not go on to win that year, because he felt that Jochen, when he died, didn't have a chance to defend all the way through the season. As it turns out, when Jochen Rindt died, there were only two races left in that year, and as you remember, Emerson Fittipaldi came in ahead of Jacky Ickx to really make it mathematically impossible for Jacky Ickx to win the title. So the title went to Jochen Rindt, and that was in 1970. So it's great that Jacky Ickx is still with us. He's married, has children. One of his daughters is also a race car driver. She's retired now. She's in her 40s, but she entered the Le Mans 24 Hour about 4 or 5 times, I think, and placed quite respectively for the time that she was driving. She never won, but I think at one time she came in ninth position. So Jacky Ickx, and the times that he did not win the Le Mans 24 Hour race, it was usually because of car trouble. And in I think it was 1976, 77, the Porsche was the favourites to win, and Porsche had come up with an engine that was a lot more powerful than the Fords or the Ferraris and everybody else for that matter. In fact, they were so powerful that was actually a detriment. Not one of those Porsches, and Jacky Ickx was driving one of them, but not one of those Porsches ended up winning the race. And in fact, one of the drivers of the Porsche was killed during the Le Mans 24 Hour race due to what a lot of people say was too much power in the engine, and he crashed out and died. Which, as you remember, I've spoken a lot about the number of deaths in automobile racing back in the especially the 60s and 70s. So fortunately, safety's come into play, and those days seem to be behind us. But sadly, too many race car drivers lost their lives back then. So this portion of the Formula One News Hour has been brought to you by Moms for Liberty. Folks, the state of our education around the country today is not good, and it's been brought about by school boards and teachers deciding that they would rather teach social and sexual orientations rather than mathematics, English and science and those types of things. And Moms for Liberty is out there promoting, and they have 183 chapters around the country, and it's growing all the time. But they're out there getting parents to get involved at their school boards, get involved with their schools, and get the schools back to really focusing on teaching the kids what the kids are going to school for. Like when I went to school, all they taught me was math, English, science, geography, history, all those things that are really important to really providing a kid the best start for life that they can get, teaching them things that they can then turn into a way of making a living and gaining good employment later on. So let's help Moms for Liberty out. You can start a chapter of your own or join a chapter in your neighborhood. Just go to momsforliberty.org. That is momsforliberty.org, and get involved with helping the organization get kids taught what they should be learning in school, instead of all of this other stuff that has no bearing on providing them a good education and providing them a really good life later on with the education that they need to get good jobs. So that is, go to momsforliberty.org. So just to finish up on the life of Jacky Ickx, which has been a good one, and you can still see him around the circuit each week, not every week, but I remember seeing him at the Italian Grand Prix in the Ferrari camp. So during the 60s and 70s, when these drivers were moving around quite a bit, and not all of them did, of course, but Jackie Stewart pretty much stayed with Tyrrell, right? And Jim Clark was always with Lotus, and Graham Hale was always with Lotus, and Jack Brabham was either with Cooper or with Brabham. So a lot of the drivers stuck with the same teams, but you also had a lot a lot of guys like Jacky Ickx that moved around between a lot of teams. But one of the things that's really notable about Jacky Ickx's career is he appears to have done really, really well when he was part of a quote-unquote team. So when you look at the different races that he won, Le Mans and Spa, and some of these other races where you have a team driver, he seemed to excel at that. So between excelling and having a teammate and excelling in the rain, and just an FYI, he, on one of the Le Mans 24-hour races, he believed that the way they started the races back then, and FYI, what they used to do, they used to line the drivers up on one side of the track, and then the cars were on the other side, and then they'd set the drivers off, and they'd have to run over, jump in their cars, do their seatbelts up, and off they'd go. Well, Jacky Ickx would not do that. In fact, he would walk across to his car, get in the car, do up his seatbelts and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes some of these drivers were halfway around the track before he ever got going. And in one year, in one case, in fact, it was almost a full lap, and then halfway through the race, it started raining. And he came back to make up that full lap and actually win the race. And it was one of the smallest margins ever. It was by less than 120 feet that he won the Le Mans 24-hour race. So a really exceptional driver in the wet, and an exceptional teammate driver. So on Friday, we will have on the Brazilian Grand Prix, we're going to have not qualifying as like pre-practice and then qualifying on Saturday and then the race on Sunday. We're going to have a type of qualifying on Friday that will determine kind of the pole position and the lead off for what we call the sprint race on Saturday, and then we'll have the sprint race on Saturday and then the race on Sunday. So I'm looking forward to Friday, and then looking forward to the sprint race on Saturday, and we'll bring that to you, and we'll also bring you the race on Sunday. So until then, we're going to pause. So welcome back, Formula One fans, and today we have the qualifying to see who will be the front runners for the sprint race tomorrow afternoon, which is about, I think here in Central Texas, it's about 2:30 in the afternoon. So we will. I hope a lot of you get to watch it. Should be very exciting, very good. The weather today in Sao Paulo is comme ci comme ça. They're expecting a little rain. All the cars right now are on the soft tires, so we should see some pretty good lap times coming in. But right now, as it sits, there's a lot of position changing going on. Cars getting towards the top that you wouldn't expect, and cars falling off at the bottom. Like right now, Hamilton's all the way down in 15th, 16th position. So we should see all that change as we come to the end of qualifying session 1 here in a few minutes. But it's really interesting. The times are about 1:13, which again I would expect those to come up, maybe up to the 1:12s and maybe even high 1:11s towards the end of, say, qualifying in qualifying 3. But anyway, right now there's a lot of changes going on. Guys that you wouldn't expect. As I said at the top, we've got Kevin Magnussen up in 7th right now, which is very good for the Haas cars. And then on the other side of the coin, we got Mick Schumacher all the way down in 20th position. So there's no way he's going to make it through into the qualifying 2 sessions. So it's going to be interesting as we get towards the end of Q1 here. Let's see who is going to come out on top and who is not going to make it into Q2. So coming out on top at the end of the Q1 qualifying session is Norris, Hamilton. Strange, remember last time a few minutes ago he was all the way down there in 15th position. He's now up in 2nd position, and the times are around that 1:13 mark, so not too fast. And then Vettel and Perez are up there in the top 5 as well. So it's going to be interesting going into Q2. The guys that did not make it through into Q2, incidentally, Ricciardo was all the way down in 15th, so he just barely made it. But the guys that did not make it to Q2 are, of course, Latifi has never made it out of Q1 qualifying this year. Of course, his days at Williams are coming to an end. But also Joe Granu, Bottas, there's a surprise. And also Tsunoda, also Yuki Tsunoda also did not make it out and into Q2. So Q2 will be starting up here in about 4 to 5 minutes, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of that particular session, because they are expecting at some point here this afternoon for some rain to pass through. Hopefully they'll get the whole qualifying sessions in before that happens, because if they don't, then we're looking at the fastest times around about now, because when the wet weather comes in, they'll go to the intermediate tires, and then the times will go from 113 to 117, 118, 116 up there. They'll lose 2 to 3 seconds at least per lap on those intermediate tires. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here in Q2. So early stages of Q2, and now Verstappen is in with the fastest time. Still though, not down there as far as I'm sure he would like to be. He's still around the 113 mark. So for whatever reason, they're not able to pick it up, and it could be because it is getting colder there, and they are sensing at this time that there's condensation in the air. That you've got the teams out there sticking their arms out from under their covers, trying to see if it's raining or whatever. Max Verstappen's just reported in that it's getting dark in some areas of the track. So it does look like that they will not get through this part of the qualifying Q2 and probably certainly not Q3 without getting into some rain. So it could be that by the time we get through Q2 and into Q3, we're looking at rain intermediate tires, and in that case, probably whatever the standings are at the end of Q2 or towards the end of Q2 even, could well be who we see that is going to be leading the pole position tomorrow in the sprint race. So very interesting stuff going on right now. Again, Verstappen's moved to the top, but beneath him there are cars that are moving around. Lance Stroll is doing quite well, and the other guy that's kind of fallen off though is Danny Ricciardo. Right now he's still down in 15th position, so he needs to find some speed to get himself up into that Q3 qualifying session. The way it's looking right now, it does not look like Danny Ricciardo is going to make it up there, but you never know. Well, we've still got about 6-7 minutes to go in Q2 session. And like I said, we're starting to see some rain, so we'll have to wait and see as this Q2 session goes on where it's going to end up. Okay, so we've made it through Q2, and the top 5 are Verstappen, then the 2 Ferraris, and then George Russell, and finally Sergio Perez. Magnussen in the Haas has still managed to stay up there. He's in 7th position. But we're looking at those folks that are out. We're going to be looking at Albon, Gasly, Vettel, Ricciardo. As we suspected, he's not made it through, and neither has Lance Stroll. So those 5 are out, and the Q3 session will start pretty soon. Looking at the times are still not that great, although they now have dropped down into the 112s. And actually, we've got a 111 there from Max Verstappen right now. So we've got to see these times drop a little further. I think as long as the weather holds out, they are still talking about the clouds are dark clouds overhead at the racetrack, and that they're all very fearful that they're not going to make it through Q3 without getting into some wet conditions. So it would behoove all of them to try and get their fast laps in straight away. Typically what they do in these sessions is that as the qualifying, or even in free practice sessions, as they go on, they're making tweaks to the car all the time and changing little things. You'll see them dive into the pits and they're in there for 4 or 5 minutes, and then they'll come out, do a warm-up lap, and then go for their fast lap. And you might see, going into Q3 here, we might see the cars actually coming out and going for their fast laps first, because if that rain comes, then whoever's got those fastest laps in, when the rain hits and they've got to go to intermediate tires. In fact, I don't know why they would even bother going to intermediate tires, because none of them are going to better the lap speeds that they have when the rain hits, if the rain should hit. So anyway, I guess it'll be good practice for tomorrow, because in the sprint race they're expecting rain, and also in the race on Sunday they're expecting rain. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens and where these cars qualify going into the end of this session, and then for the sprint race tomorrow. So we're about halfway through here on Q3, and surprise, surprise, we've got Kevin Magnussen, who was up. And we've got an incident. It looks like George Russell has gone straight on at one of the turns. He's into the gravel now. That's it. His day's over. You get into that gravel. Those cars have such low ground clearance. He's come out the other side of it. Okay, now he's back. Okay, he's spun around, he's back into the gravel. Okay, so anyway, his day is over. Those cars, they're so low to the ground, they get in that gravel, they bottom out. They're not going anywhere. The wheels just spin. So George Russell's day is over. And getting back to the qualifying session, Magnussen is up there at the top, strangely enough, with a 111. He was in 7th place at the end of Q2. So it's kind of interesting. And they are talking about, on the teams, on the radio, talking about in some places that the track is actually starting to get damp. So that may have been the reason that George Russell actually lost. Where they're playing a replay, it looks like his right rear wheel got onto some paint on the side of the track, on the edge of the track, and it just locked up, and then he lost braking. He just couldn't get slowed down enough to make the turn. So anyway, let's continue watching and see what's going to happen here. The second part, like I said, we're about 8 minutes left in Q3, so we've still got a little way to go. So they've just played another replay of George Russell and what happened to him. And what happened to him was, the first time by, it looked like his right rear wheel was just touching on the painted white lines there. But on the second replay here, his right rear wheel was actually in the grass. So then what would happen is, when he hit the brakes, that right rear wheel is just going to lock up. There's no grip. It's in the grass, and that's exactly what happened. So then he couldn't make the turn. He goes straight on into the gravel. And in fact, they've pulled out a red flag right now, so they've stopped it while they get his car off the track and get everything back to safe haven. So it's been a bad day for George. I'm sure that he was expecting better things, but that's one of the things that happen. It doesn't take much to go wrong at 160 or even 120 miles an hour or 200 miles an hour, and there's no time when you lose something like that, there's no time to correct it. At those speeds, you've just got to hope that you don't hit a wall, you don't get injured and stuff like that. So, and in this case, he did manage to keep the car out of the wall. He did manage to keep the car going all the way through the gravel and got out the other side, but then he spun around and went back into the gravel again, is what really happened. So, interesting things, but anyway, they're going to get ready here in a couple of minutes, and we're going to go back to qualifying. So we are back to racing, and the rain has come. So right now, Kevin Magnussen is on the pole position. That is amazing. Kevin Magnussen is in pole position because they've all had to go to the intermediate tires, and there's no way that he's in at a 111.8. So not really that fast when you consider Verstappen had a 110. But he's going to be on the pole, and he's going to be followed by Verstappen, Norris, and Carlos Sainz. So this is just an amazing turn of events. Kevin Magnussen in a Haas car is going to do something that he's never done before, and that's get in a pole position for any part of a race. So he will be in pole position tomorrow, starting with the sprint race. So that's going to be really interesting. Folks, I do not expect him to stay there in that position very long, especially when we've seen, Max Verstappen pull a 110. But I'm sure for the Haas team, and they just took on a new sponsor, that MoneyGram is a new sponsor. So and the replays here, we're watching the MoneyGram logo on the front of the car. So a great start for that relationship, because this replay of this particular portion of the qualifying is going to be replayed millions of times here over the next couple of days. So it couldn't have worked out better for Haas, and it couldn't worked out better for MoneyGram, but most importantly, it could not have been any better for Kevin Magnussen. So until tomorrow, we're going to pause, and then we're going to bring you the sprint tomorrow. But again, it's going to be Magnussen, then followed by Verstappen up there on the front row. Okay, welcome back, Formula One fans. It is Saturday, and it is time for the sprint. So interesting thing that happened yesterday that I forgot to mention. If you remember, when we left, George Russell had spun out and had said his day was over. But what's surprising was, because of the way things ended, he was able to scratch that lap time and get the lap time from before. And so he's actually starting this sprint race in third position today. So we're starting the top three with Magnussen, of course, who's just thrilled. But then Verstappen, then George Russell, and then Norris and Carlos Sainz. So an interesting lineup for the beginning. We got Hamilton back in 8th and Perez back in 9th. So that's kind of two strange things there. But anyway, we're about to get underway here, and we're actually on the formation lap, and it'll come in. What's going to be interesting really is how quickly is Max Verstappen going to get past Kevin Magnussen. Will it in fact be a very short ride in the pole position for Magnussen? Will he make it past the first corner still in pole position? So we'll just have to wait and see. They're coming up, and they're all lining up now. And in just a few moments, the green flag will drop, and then we'll have the series of lights. If you haven't seen how a Formula One race starts, there's 5 red lights, and they light them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they all go out, and everybody goes. So the final cars are pulling back in behind. So it's just going to be a matter of time, like I said before, Magnussen gets passed by Verstappen. There's no way that Haas car can hold out. The only thing that I think will be really interesting is, will he finish in the top 10 and earn some points? Actually, it's the top 8 places in the sprint race that earns points for the team. So, can he maintain and get up into 8th place? One thing of interest is Carlos Sainz will take a 5-spot penalty for a new engine. So it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but wherever he finishes, whether it be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or whatever, he's going to drop back 5 spots in addition to that. Okay, so we are off and we are going. Magnussen has got a really good start. He is not well in front, but nicely in front going into the first corner, and he is going to come out of the first corner in the lead, followed by Verstappen, Russell, Norris, Sainz, and then the rest of the field. So that's very, very interesting. There's a lot of black smoke. There's where I think we had some lockup of brakes by the cars on the rear end there going through that first turn. So we're coming to the end of lap 1, and guess what? Kevin Magnussen is still in the lead. So he can now say that he has at least led a sprint race lap in Formula One. So I'm sure his team is happy. The other folks are happy, of course, is MoneyGram, because they've been on more TV and more advertising in the last 2 days, and they will be for the next week as lots of celebrations go on with well. So now it's just happening in lap 2, and they don't even have DRS yet. But coming down the straightaway, Max Verstappen is going to move on past Kevin Magnussen and put him into second place. So in the second lap, Magnussen has now dropped back into second place. But like I was saying, MoneyGram has really got their money's worth out of advertising this weekend with the surprise success of Magnussen making it to the pole position. Of course, that was caused by weather, but still he managed to get in there with the fastest time. At the time when what really happened was when the red flag came out, and then they went back to racing. Then they came back out on intermediate tires. What's interesting talking to tires is most of the field, in fact all of the field except one, is on the soft tire. And incidentally, this is exactly 100 kilometers, so it's 24 laps of this track. And should last around 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. And all the cars except one are on the soft tire, and the one that is not, strangely enough, is Max Verstappen. So we'll see how that plays out as the race goes on. He's holding up quite nicely right now, and in fact, George Russell now has just moved past Kevin Magnussen. So Magnussen is now down into third place. So we're 4 laps in, and Verstappen is leading. George Russell is second. Lewis Hamilton is moved up into, is that right? Yes, Lewis Hamilton. No, sorry. Carlos Sainz is in third place. Lewis Hamilton is in fourth place. And Lando Norris has dropped back. So Lando Norris, for whatever reason, having his issues there. I'm sorry, he's in fifth place behind Magnussen. So Magnussen now has dropped back 3 places into fourth place. And it looks like that maybe that's the way it's going to stay here for a few more laps. It's only a matter of time before at least 2 or 3 other drivers move past Kevin Magnussen. Like I say, he'll be lucky to stay in the top 10 because you've got the Red Bulls, the Ferraris, the Alfa Romeos, and the Alpines, which are all better cars than Magnussen's. But he got off to a really good start, and he has opened up and been able to open up some seconds between him and the cars behind him. So this being a 24-lap race, they've really got to move fast. And we have seen some passing quite a lot. Now we've just seen another. Wait a minute. So that's really crazy. Fernando Alonso has just about he's been just run off the track by his teammate Alex Albon. Why would somebody do that? That is crazy. Of course, Alonso is on the team radio. I guess there's not a lot of good blood between those guys, but this is their second to last race. Why Alex Albon would pull a stunt like that is beyond me. But and in fact, he's damaged the front wing of Alonso's car, so Alonso is going to come into the pits and get that front nose cone changed. I'm sure they'll put new tires on as well while he's done that, but that's going to put him right at the back of the pack. So his day of fighting for any position is over, because nobody else is going to make a pit stop in this race unless they've got serious problems like Alonso, because it's short enough that no pit stops will be necessary, even on the soft tires. All these soft tires, they should be able to last all the way through to the end of the race. So kind of strange that Alex Albon pulled that off, but I'm sure the stewards will take a look at that, and maybe there's some penalty seconds coming up for Alex Albon, so there should be. I'm sorry, I keep telling it's Alex Albon. It's not. It's Esteban Ocon. I'm sorry, Alex Albon. Your two names, I get them confused. It's Esteban Ocon and not Alex Albon. Alex Albon right now is driving a nice race for the Williams. As you know, as you've seen me noted in the past, Albon's been doing a really nice job in that Williams car this year. Right now, he's down in the 13th, 14th position. He started a little way back, but he's moving up through the field quite nicely. So yeah, it's Esteban Ocon that ran Alonso off the track. So we are now getting to be 8-9 laps in, and let's take a look at where the positions are right now. So coming up on lap 9, and we have Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton, Verstappen, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, and then Sergio Perez. So Sergio Perez started all the way back in about 12th or 13th position, I think. So he's having a really good day. His Red Bull is really performing well for him. The one that's not is Charles Leclerc and the other Ferrari. He does not seem, he's back in 10th place right now. So it does not look like that car is being very kind to him, or he's just not getting what he needs to out of this track. Anyway, you know, we've seen a lot of passing going on in the backfield especially, and from the back to the front, because both Perez and Hamilton started quite a way back, and we've got Magnussen now back in 6th position. So another guy has gone up and passed. Actually, two cars have gone up and passed Magnussen. So like I said at the beginning of the race here, it's going to be very difficult for him to stay in the top 10, given the quality of the cars and the drivers that are up there with him. Not saying his car's not great quality and that he's not a good driver. It's just that all year long, you know, the Haas cars have been finishing, you know, in the really between 18th and 14th. Yeah, they've had one or two better races, but they've been right in the middle of the back third, let's say. So we should not expect anything different than that for today. And we've just had a yellow flag come out. Tsunoda has gone off. It doesn't look like anything happened. It just looks like he's pulled off the track. His car has died. So Yuki Tsunoda is out of the race. His car is far enough off. I don't think they'll have that yellow flag out too long. And they'll just push that car back right out the outside of the fence right there, and we'll go back to green racing here in just a moment. And in fact, we're going back to green racing right now, so we're at, I think, what are we on, lap 12 or 13 now? So not much changes, other than we're seeing George Russell. Verstappen's not getting what he wants out of that car, because in fact, Russell is making a strong push to get past him at this point. In fact, right now, Russell is right alongside Max Verstappen. Is he going to get past him? No, not this time around. He is not. He's not going to get past him. Russell had DRS, but Verstappen, remember, the Red Bull cars are about 6 to 9 miles an hour faster than the Mercedes on the straightaway anyway. But even with DRS, Russell was not able to get past him. But there's something not right, and it's probably those medium compound tires that Verstappen decided to start on, or I should say his team decided to start him on. He doesn't seem to be able to get the grips going through the corner and get a good enough distance. At one point, he was about 2 seconds ahead of George Russell, but right now that is down to 0.3 and 0.5 of a second, so less than half a second in the gap, and it's only going to be a matter of time here, and George Russell is going to get past him. I'm going to say on the next straightaway where Russell gets DRS, he is going to be able to take Max Verstappen, and in fact it is about to happen. George Russell is alongside. He's got the inside, and no, he's gone to the outside. Sorry, and he is going to get Max Verstappen on the outside, and then he's going to come cut back, and he does cut back across the corner. So George Russell has just taken the lead and put Max Verstappen into second place, and that is a real surprise. So the only thing, like I said, the only thing that I can be thinking is that those medium compound tires are not giving Verstappen the grip that he was expecting to get from them at this point in the race. So now coming up behind Verstappen is Carlos Sainz. Will Carlos Sainz be able to get back past Verstappen? So lap 15 here, and Verstappen is holding off Carlos Sainz right now, and there has just been about a lap ago, actually, well, everything going on at the front, I forgot to mention but I don't know what is going on with Lance Stroll. In Austin, he took out Alonso, and he has just this moment just absolutely caused his teammate Sebastian Vettel real grief. And how Vettel managed to keep control of that car and keep it on the track, I don't know. But that guy, when people go to pass him, he just blocks them, and that's very dangerous, because as we saw in Austin, Alonso ended up going over the top and spinning around, and how he ended up coming 7th in that race, nobody really knows. That was a brilliant piece of driving. But the stewards have got to do something about this guy. This is just crazy the way he's driving. One of the things that these race drivers have to be able to do is they've got to be able to trust each other, that when there's an opening for somebody to pass, they've got to let that pass happen. They cannot cut it off, just like Esteban Ocon did to his teammate earlier in this race, and what Lance Stroll has just done to Sebastian Vettel. That is just absolute craziness to do that, and to put these drivers at risk like that. So we're up at lap 19 now out of 24, and Carlos Sainz has passed Max Verstappen to put him into third place. So we now have Russell, Sainz, Verstappen, and Hamilton. So sorry, the other way around. We've got George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Max Verstappen, and Lewis Hamilton. So can Lewis Hamilton? So it looks like that during the pass, Verstappen's front air fender there caught the rear wheel of Carlos Sainz, and a piece flew off, and so Verstappen now has lost some of the. And in fact, I'm getting all excited here. Hamilton is making a move to get past Verstappen. Verstappen does not have the downforce on the front of that car to give him the grip, and the problem he's having with the tires is even worse. So it's going to be, during this lap, I'm sure that Hamilton is also going to get past Verstappen and get themselves here into in fact, yes, Hamilton has just passed Verstappen. So now we've got George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and then behind Max Verstappen, we've got Carlos Perez. So we've got both Mercedes, one Ferrari, and both Red Bulls in the top 5. So it's going to be really interesting here to see what happens. But you know, if it was to finish like this, you know what the starting order tomorrow is going to be. Oh, and I'm just seeing come up here on the screen. The stewards have handed Lance Stroll a 10-second penalty. So if I just look down this thing right here, so that's going to put him back starting in about 15th position. So that little maneuver, that thing that he tried to pull off, has turned out to be very costly for him. And just an FYI, Kevin Magnussen is in 8th position, and with just 4 or 5 laps to go, the closest guy to him is 4 seconds behind him. So it looks like Magnussen is going to finish 8th, so that's going to give him the point that he needed. But the interesting thing here is Carlos Sainz will be knocked back 5 places from where he finishes. So that's going to be very interesting, because right now that's going to put the Mercedes on the front row and the Red Bulls on the second row. It'll leave Kevin Magnussen where he is in 8th place with a point. But just to earn a point in the World Championship race for constructors, that puts them ahead of the Alpines, which means an additional, well, it's about $12 million in their pockets. So that one place that he's managed to pick up, that 1 point, is really turning out to be really crucial for the Haas team. Okay, so we are on the last lap, and it is going to finish like I just thought. But there's just been radio transmission at the Red Bull camp with Perez asking the team if Verstappen will let him come by and pick up an additional place, because that'll mean some additional points. And he and Charles Leclerc are in a battle for 2nd place in the World Championship battle. The first place is settled; it's Max Verstappen. But it would certainly help Perez's effort if Verstappen was to let him get past him and let him move up into a 4th place versus 5th place. But it does not look like Max Verstappen is going to help him out here, which is, really, the points don't matter to him now. It just doesn't matter. So. But, they've all got their egos, and they all want to win, and they all want to race hard. But it has come to an end now, and it is George Russell, number 1. Then we've got Carlos Sainz in 2nd position, Lewis Hamilton in 3rd, and then Max Verstappen and Perez. So what it's going to end up is, it's going to end up with the Mercedes on the front row and the Red Bulls in the row behind them. So we're going to have a really interesting race tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. And let's thank the sponsor of this section of the Formula One and News Hour. This section has been brought to us by El American. Folks, if you want to get real TV with real news, without opinions, and real good, hard, solid reporting of the facts, then you need to go to El American. And for all my Latino friends out there that love Formula One, the other reason you want to go to El American is because they broadcast in both English and Spanish. So you don't have to worry and think about translation things going on. El American's broadcasting simultaneously in English and Spanish all throughout the Americas. So, and I say throughout America, I'm talking North America, of course. So please go to elamerican.com. That is elamerican.com for all the news you need on a 365 basis. That is elamerican.com. So until tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to, it should be a good race. It's going to be interesting to see whether those Red Bulls can get past those Mercedes, or if in fact Mercedes is going to manage to win a race this year. They haven't managed it so far. Could Brazil be the place where Mercedes pull off the win?